just came across this video earlier today. It's from a pro player. I don't follow the pro PUBG scene very well, but he does give some really good insights on team composition. And this is his first lecture, and he's planning on doing more, so we'll probably follow along. Please, if you find it useful and enjoyable, please go like and subscribe this guy, and I will put the link in chat to the video while it's playing.
Alright, hey guys, how you doing? This is Flood here. I've wanted to do some educational content for a little bit now, as I don't think there's really that much stuff that's really explains in depth what competitive PUBG is like and how to get better and all that stuff for a while. So I want to do this for a while. But anyway, so today's episode is just the first episode, so a lot of people will actually just understand this already. This is some really simple stuff, but I'm trying to make a stepping stone and just really build the foundation, so when I talk about stuff in future episodes, there's no confusion and people know exactly what I'm talking about. So for this episode, we're going to talk about team roles and how a lot of competitive players form their playstyles, so how a lot of players play, and we'll also talk about the types of roles that each team has. Just for some information, this is based on my experience and understanding. I'm not 100% correct, I'm never 100% correct, but this is my understanding. Everyone who I've mentioned or used pictures of in this video, I've asked them and they've approved. So yep, thank you for that understanding. So we'll get started. Alright, so just to quickly brush over the content for today. For the first slide, we're going to talk about fundamentals and what a lot of pro players do really well, and maybe what you guys need to do if you want to get better at the game. Now we have the 6 main roles that I think covers a huge portion of players. I think every player kind of fits somewhat into these roles. It's also important to note that you can be multiple of these roles. Like for example, Mime is a really good frontman and he's also a fantastic co-IGL. Then you have Varello who's our IGL, but for a good portion of his career he's played more of a supportive role. So yeah, everyone can have multiple roles, you know, it's kind of just like the playstyle you have, and of course you can have more than one playstyle. So yeah, we'll go over these roles quickly, and if you do already know how these roles work and what they're like, that's fine. There's a bit of homework at the end for next episode. Not for next episode, sorry, just in general, to make sure you understand the content, and then we will continue. Alright, for some of the fundamental skills that we need to achieve in order to become a better PUBG player and a better competitive player, there's about, say 10 or 11 that are really important. I've put 11 down here, and there's a few critical ones that we need to think about. And we really need to focus on having clear communication. We need to be able to relay information to our callers and make sure we're giving clear and correct information. We need to be scouting efficiently. You can't waste time. Like PUBG and competitive PUBG is all about, it's a game about speed. Teams who do stuff properly quickly usually do better. And then of course the last one is decisiveness. I've honestly just put this in critical because our team struggles with this, and I think if we got better at this, we'd be a much better team. So that's why I think decisiveness is really important. But anyway, I mean, it's critical, not important. For some important skills, I think understanding fighting lines is really helpful as a player. I think that comes with experience and like understanding how the terrain works, understanding what positions lead to what other positions. But we'll go over fighting lines in quite a bit of detail in future episodes. Then we have map knowledge, just understanding terrain, which is really important to be a beneficial player and add value to your team in terms of ideas. And then of course individual mechanics. You need to make sure you are able to hit the easy shots and of course try and hit some hard shots too. And just a few helpful skills that'll really make you a better team player is having great discipline, so knowing when to peek, knowing when not to peek. Creativity is really important. Like I think Snakers is a fantastic player who's just like really creative. He'll throw out some random ideas that are just really good. So being creative and thinking out of the box, same with Mime, he does that a lot. And another thing is you want to be aware of your teammates and yourself. So you should be looking at your map, checking where your teammates are, look where they're looking. If you need to micromanage one of your teammates, you can. If they're doing something wrong or you foresee them making a mistake, just make sure you're doing that in a positive way. Make sure you're being a positive player because no one wants to play.
Alright, I don't want to go to the next slide until we talk a little bit about this. This is some very general but very good information that he's put together. I tend to agree with everything here. I don't think I can add anything. I'm not a pro player. This guy is going to be much better understanding this stuff. I really, for myself, I can see I can see a lot of these areas where I need to improve, like clear communication / relaying information. I caught myself giving callouts that were not very good to teammates, and that can lead to getting your teammates killed, getting yourself killed, losing a battle, blah blah blah, all that. So that's really as Flood says, that's critical. And so I thought I had pretty good callouts. I think I still have quite a bit of work to go. I think some of the callouts will come down to map knowledge, which is under important. I think map knowledge, I think it could be critical, but I think also if you're just a good player in general, you could probably overcome a lack of map knowledge. So I kind of agree with it being an important. And then over and helpful, the awareness of yourself and others. Super tough for me. I'm always constantly calling out. I don't see them. Can you mark them? All that stuff, and it takes me many seconds to adjust to a battle that my team is in. Now they could just mark. There's a few people I play with that don't really mark unless you ask, because they don't need the marks. They're able to focus the map, find out where you're looking, and pivot to it. I need to work on that, but if I have a mark, I can find it on the compass and get aimed in the right direction, in a second, rather than probably 3 to 5 seconds. So that's really huge. The awareness of yourself and others would help me, because then I need to look at the minimap, find their arrow, and point that way just to get a general idea. So yeah, super great information. Now it's high level, and Flood says he's going to go down into some of the stuff like understanding fighting lines. I want to see that a lot. I think there's a lot that he and pro players in general can provide that we wouldn't have seen, or that we wouldn't know, because we don't play the game like they do. And I think it would help a lot, because I know, like in COD and in a few of the maps like Rust and Shipment, you have your lanes, right? So you know where to look, and after you play it for I use these maps as an example because they're the simplest maps. They're just squares with a few lanes, right? But you play these maps, you play it for a few hours, you kind of get to know where people are going to end up, and it helps so much as far as like getting kills and not dying and stuff. So from all of these topics, I think that's probably my most anticipated. So we'll see. I'll be following along, and hopefully being able to share them with you also. So let's keep listening. I think he's going to slide 2 now.
Play on a team with someone who's mean. Trust me, positivity goes a long way. I would put it critical for me personally, but I think for most players, it's just helpful to be positive, so keep that in mind. Alright, as far as the team roles and playstyles go, I said there was 6, and it covers like a huge range of different playstyles. So I think it covers like almost every player could identify to some degree with at least one of these 6 roles, if not multiple.
We're going to skip forward past this. We want to get into the
PUBG players that are really good.
His talks about what each role is.
Feels like they're usually the players that are most confident with how to play the game and how to position. So they're generally the smartest players, and they are the leaders on their team, right? Like IGLs want to lead their team, and they're focused all about positioning and macro gameplay. So these players will usually be in their map quite a bit, so they don't usually ADR farm. That's usually the fraggers and other people's jobs. But yeah, IGLs have huge impact in the early game and mid game. I think they do a huge chunk of the decision making for the team, easily in the 80%. I think people can make suggestions, but usually this IGL will give the green light to plays, and he'll really.
I feel like I am not going to claim to be a smart person, and I'm far from the smartest of players. but I feel like I try and fall into this role a lot because I'm constantly looking at the map, trying to find where to go next. And I feel like I fail at that, and so a lot of the times you might see me playing and I'll step back and just let other people do it, and that's fine. I don't mind doing that, but I feel like I try and fulfill this role, and I probably need to step back from trying to be an IGL and be more of one of these other roles that you'll see. I'll call it out when we get to it.
Think about everything that's been said. IGLs need to be able to handle pressure, and they need to be able to make decisions quickly and efficiently. So anyone who's an IGL, if you think that you can handle pressure and you can make decisions based off information quickly, then it's being an IGL is probably a good thing for you to do. But yeah, usually IGLs are very vocal on how they want to play the game. These people want to have control over how they play. So these players are usually really organized, and they know what they want to do. They know how they want to play the game, and they just want to make sure their team's on the same page. So yeah, these guys are the leaders of the team. They usually orchestrate and begin a lot of the plays. I think a lot of really good teams, their IGLs are usually ones who start plays or try to start plays. So I guess you could kind of tie in a lot of IGLs as frontmen too. And yeah, so we have Quinn as a picture. Quinn's a fantastic IGL, as probably the most successful American IGL of all time. Yeah, probably. And then we have Purdy. He's just, he's got that age and experience over everyone by like a long shot, like a big age gap. So yeah, Purdy's a great example of an IGL as well. Alright, so going on to co-IGLs. Co-IGLs are actually, in my opinion, just...
Alright, we're going to skip past co-IGL because essentially it's just an IGL backup for like second in command. So I don't think we need to hear about it. Let's get on to Fragger, which is more interesting to me.
Then I think maybe being a co-IGL might be something you should aim to do, sorry. Alright, so we have the most famous role probably. Everyone knows this. Everyone loves fraggers. Everyone thinks these players are the greatest gifts to God. I have put two really good examples. I think Snakers and Sparking are two phenomenal fraggers, and they seriously are so mechanically good. It's kind of crazy when I watch Snakers play sometimes. I don't know how this guy hits that many shots. Same with Sparking. I think Sparking is God tier as well. But the fraggers are usually the star player on the team. In terms of the face of the team, they don't necessarily have to be the star. I mean, they're usually the star because they statistically shine. But these players are the playmakers. They're the players that open stuff up. They get insane knocks. They're ready to fight. They're always looking to shoot and pressure people. So think of as a fragger being someone who is willing to listen. Even Snake is maybe not the best listener, but that's okay. He makes up for it. But listening is super important, and fraggers just listen, and they don't have a huge impact on the macro of the game. They usually focus on doing what they're told, and they just shoot and pressure opponents. These players are phenomenal with ARs, phenomenal with DMRs, and they just feed information to their team, they shoot, and they listen, and that's basically what frag will do. So if you think that you're not the smartest player, you can still be smart and be a fragger.
Now, let's be honest here. Everybody wants to be a fragger, right? I know that I'm not a fragger. I can get kills, but my gunplay is pretty terrible. I'm not, very good with the mechanics. That's something that I work on all the time, and I'm constantly evaluating. When I go back and watch my streams, trying to figure out what I did here and there. That's part of the Mastering Your Mistakes series that I've got going on, is to kind of go back and talk about things and how they could have been done differently or better. But yeah, let's be honest, who wouldn't want to be a fragger if you're on one of these teams? Because they are basically like the drummer or whatever, like the lead singer of a rock band. They're the people that everyone knows. Let's keep going.
Don't get me wrong. But if you want to listen and you just want to let other people command you and you be led, basically, then I think frag is the best role. It does require a lot of effort and time to get mechanically that good. Like, honestly, it'll probably be impossible if you get mechanically as good as Snakers and Sparking in a short period of time. So you're going to have to really put in the work if you want to be a fragger. I think it's the easiest thing to slot into a team because it's just someone who's really mechanically good. Like, you don't have that much impact on the macro play, so it's not terribly important as long as you output damage, pressure, knocks, kills, and you're just feeding them information. That's all that matters as your Fragger. Alright, so we have another role which is kind of the opposite of Fraggers in some sense. Supports are usually, they're usually like, I guess the garbage men of teams, right? They're usually really good as well. Like, everyone on a team is good, but supports tend to do more of the boring duties in a team. They'll clear the edge. They're in a 3-1 split, which we'll talk about in future episodes.
So, of all the roles that Flood has talked about up to this point, I feel like this one describes what I do in game when I'm in a group the closest, right? I'm always trying to make sure the backside is covered. I don't want to get snuck up on. I like to clear corners, check windows, and all that stuff. The only thing that I really don't do is being great with DMRs. I am okay with DMRs, and that's just something that takes a lot of repetition. But I think if you were to look at my gameplay over all of my videos, I probably fall into a support role more than anything else, and that's okay with me. Alright, let's keep going.
They'll usually be the one, they're going to be sweeping the back, they're going to be making sure there's no threats coming in. So these players are usually really good at telling the team what type of threats they might be having and like where their resources need to be focused on. So these players are really good at getting off angles and working angles, getting little picks by being way off and nowhere. So I think like a good example is like Pio kind of does that, but he's also, I mean, the support and frontmen are kind of similar and they have some overlap. But I think the main difference between supports and frontmen is supports usually want to anchor, and just because you're a support doesn't mean you get kills, by the way. This is just like a play style that people have. Usually supports prefer anchoring because they are much better with DMRs. Like these guys, like I put Nikos in here because that guy was like an SLR demon. Like these players are really good with DMRs, so they'll sit themselves back and they'll play an anchor role because they know that they're confident at mid to long range. Alright, so the most important role that I think anyone and everyone should aim to achieve is becoming a flex player. And the reason I say this is because flex players are able to do a huge chunk of roles. They're able to do like almost all the roles, if not all the roles. And that's what makes them so consistent. They're able to consistently add value to their teams. They can support, they can entry frag, they can be an aggressive scouter, they can IGL, they can lead, they can do pretty much everything. So this is what you should be aiming for, because if you're not a dedicated IGL, you want to strive to become a flex player, someone who can do everything on a team. I do think it's not easy to become a flex player. I think you have to gain a lot of experience because you need to know how to play certain situations. So usually the more experienced players tend to have a more flexible playstyle. So that's why I put a picture of Shrimzy here. He's an extremely experienced player. He does a lot for his team in terms of being consistent and adding value. So I think being consistent is an asset in PUBG. I think PUBG is a game of averages. So yeah, you want to try and become a player like this who can do whatever needs to be done and is very reliable. So yeah, like this is the ultimate goal of like learning. I think it's better to learn a few at once, and then as you get more experience under your belt, you'll slowly begin to cover more roles and be more comfortable with more playstyles. But it's really about identifying your own strengths and weaknesses. But yeah, flex players, they're super reliable, they do exactly what they're told, they do what they need to do, they can command, they can lead, so yeah. This is the best role to possibly be, and I think a huge chunk of pros are flex players because a lot of pros have heaps of experience because the game's been out for a while. So yeah, and we'll continue. Alright, we have the scouts and the frontmen. Now, these players are super selfless, right? These players only care about winning and getting advantages for their team, and if they have to die for that, they're more than willing to. So I put Mime as an example. I think on Sonics he did this really well as well. I think a lot of fans and viewers could identify that, which is awesome. It's fun to identify roles and how players play. But yeah, so Mime is fantastic QCQ. Like, this guy wants to be in your face. He's getting in spoiler spots. Like, he's doing stuff that adds value without necessarily shooting all the time. So sometimes one knock can open the whole game and get you a 10 kill win. So this is where frontmans and scouts, they risk their life a lot, and they're very risky sometimes with information and scouting, but their goal is to get, it's a high risk, high reward play, and this is what these players do. These players are super confident, QCQ, they're very confident as well in their own abilities.
So if you watch the people I play with, like my daughter, Cyberpan Woman, Teriyaki, which is my daughter's friend, Longshot, which is a close friend of mine, I would say that Cyberpan Woman and Teriyaki fall into the scout slash frontman because they're always leading the charge. They're always in front of us, sometimes to our detriment because they just go crazy. So there's some work they could do there, but I don't think they even care to get to that. But if you watch any of the videos, if you're familiar with the team that I play with currently, they would be the scouts and the front men.
But I do think it's really important that in a team, you need to have at least one person who is willing to make plays and take risks for the team in order to create opportunities. So I think when you have a team structure and you discuss as a team, like, who is willing to take risks and who is better at it, because some people aren't as good at taking risks and they die a lot. So and the problem is there's so much, like, you have to play with it quite a lot. Sorry, you have to really test the limits before you can get to that point. So for example, like, I don't think I'm very good at doing what Mime does, so that's why I let Mime do what he does, because he's fantastic at it. So yeah, scouts and frontmen, super important for information and beginning plays. They're very selfless. These players usually die first though, unfortunately, but they're doing it for a good cause. Alright guys, this is the end of the episode. This is a really short, sweet episode.
Alright, so this is the end of it. We're not going to do the homework because I haven't followed the pros. You guys feel free if you want to do the homework, share with me what you've come up with. I don't follow the pro scene. Maybe I'll start. It's always on at weird times, and I just don't have the amount of hours that they are on for these tournaments. Maybe if there's like a summary or like a really, you know, like the best plays, like compilation, that'd be awesome. I don't know if there is. I haven't looked around. That could be something I could do. But you see down at the bottom here, next lecture, Introduction to Competitive PUBG Principles. I don't know what that means. I'm not looking to become a competitive player. There's no way in hell I'll ever be as good as even the worst pro player. So we'll see what that brings. And if it's applicable to normal gameplay, we'll probably watch it just so that we we have that knowledge.